another shop, and I asked him like, hey, I would like to have this, and they said, okay, come over, let's have a talk. So instantly he made an offer. I put a down payment for the engine, and that was kind of it. Now I went to another shop to install a couple of bits on the suspension, like polyurethane bushings, and unfortunately something went wrong probably with installation, because when I was driving on the road, my wishbone fell out, and then I almost nearly like had a massive accident with the car. Luckily I was driving very slow, like about I don't know 20-30 kilometers per hour at the time, so it was like, okay, the wheel all of a sudden like went into wheel arch. So I had no car, and that happened I think on a Thursday, and on the Wednesday following I had it was my girlfriend's birthday, and I booked us a day stay in Antwerp in Belgium. It was also like an hour away or so. Like, okay, I need to get there. I could take the train, but I'm a car guy, and a friend of mine was selling a Volvo S70 at the time. So I'm like, I'm gonna buy this because I think race car is gonna, my Impreza is gonna end up being a race car. I probably need it daily. So I bought that car. We went to Antwerp. Everything was nice and dandy. All is good. So fast forward to November when I'm doing the race car driving course. I passed. I destroyed my third gear because they made out of butter on Impreza, so that's normal. But luckily it happened on the very last free driving lap, so no big deal. And then it was time to already start building the car. And I then committed myself like, okay, now I have my race car driver license, I have this car, I want to start racing next year. So I need to have a car with a roll cage. So, okay, we need to strip this car down. Then at some point on a forum, I found an offer of a coupe body type, because my car was a 4-door. And I found a coupe body type GC8 with a 22B body kit, so it's like a World Rally Championship car. And already caged installed for 2,250 euros at the time, and I had to pay I think 17 or 1,800 euros to put a cage alone in my 4-door body. So I'm like, you know what, makes sense to get already done coupe body. So I bought that, and as the mechanic was there to pick up the car, he called me and said like, hey, they also have another full chassis that we can use for parts. They're offering it for additional 300 or 500 euros. I'm like, well, if you can use that, yeah, sure, let's do that. So he bought that. Then I came home talking to not home. I went to my girlfriend and like we had dinner and like, oh, what are you doing? And like, oh, I bought 2 more cars. She's like, okay, that's it. I'm leaving you. Like, it's done. There were, of course, more things happening in a relationship that she was probably unhappy about because I was too focused on my cars or whatever, like, and because I was like, what, 21, 22 at the time.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Exactly. So I'm not saying that she's a crazy person and like, you know, left me. I'm sure there was lots of things going on in our lives at the time, but it was like, that was for her like, okay, I'm leaving you. You love cars more than you love me. Maybe it was the case at the time, you know, I'm not...
So now explain what happened next.
Yeah, so the next thing happens, I'm like, well, okay, I don't need to have like fancy weekends in Antwerp and other countries, and I need to buy a second car, so budget available. So I called up the engine builder, like, so 500 horsepower, can we make it 700 horsepower? Then I have extra money available.
So by your girlfriend breaking up with you, your race car gained 200 horsepower?
Pretty much, yes. And it became, at the time, the fastest, I think, the most powerful Impreza, at least in Europe. There were, I think, faster guys maybe in UK, RCM, Roger Clark Motorsport, they were like the fastest with their gobstopper, but that car was extremely fast that I had built.
Just so that we can keep everybody on a timeline.
Yes.
How old would you have been then, and had YouTube started then? Just so that one, Matt.
Oh, that's a... So I was, at the time when the car was finished, I must have been 22 or 23 years old.
It's about 10 years ago.
It's 10 years ago, yes. YouTube, so when you go on my YouTube channel, and if you're gonna sort videos from like the oldest to newest, you're gonna see videos from like 12, 13, 14 years ago, because I was posting things because way back in the days, I was doing things with scooters, like 50cc, 70cc, modifying them, and from having a scooter that I actually initially bought to just use to get from A to B, I ended up having the largest scooter club in the Netherlands and participating with the drag racing championship with scooters. So it was quite crazy. But so I was posting stuff that I was doing back then, just like my drag racing run, some stuff, some things on the street that may or may not have been me, because the guy on that scooter doing stupid stuff on my YouTube channel is wearing like completely blacked out helmet. So it's probably not me, but it's a cool guy that I have posted on my YouTube channel. So I've been posting stuff back in the days, and also with the Impreza that I was building. The only thing I have of that car is maybe one onboard lap of me driving on Zandvoort at the time. So people should definitely watch so they can comment how bad of my driving was back in the days. I would slate myself down how bad it was, horrible it was. And I have a dyno run when we reached the 700 horsepower and 864.
Well, you did reach it then?
Yes. So, yeah, we did reach it because I remember like the like run number 3 or 4 was like 699 or something. And I'm like, we need to. Like, he's like, don't worry, small mapping, 705, 864. So we did that, and it was. But so related to your question, I posted these 2 videos on YouTube or something. I did not see YouTube as something that I could make my living off. I was mostly focusing like. At the time, I was running probably 20 different forum project pages. So I had project page on Subaru Club Netherlands, Subaru Club UK, US. Then Luxury for Play was a different website, like completely irrelevant websites that would have a subtopic of a car. I would run all these things there. So luckily, all the forums were running the same source code, so you could just like copy everything with. Image link to your photo bucket or Facebook, and everything the same formatting will be just copy and pasting. But I would run 20 different pages, and on top I would post occasionally picture on my Facebook, and that was kind of it. I remember at the time when I was still studying and going with a train to the university, I started reading in newspapers about upcoming YouTube stars who would like earn lots of money on there. But I'm like, well, okay, whatever.
Like Casey.
No, Casey Neistat. It was before his time. I think even PewDiePie was not there. I think Jenna Marbles. You had like these kinds of names. Like Boyfriend versus Girlfriend was also a big channel at the time. Like the first million people. But it was for me not something like, okay, this is something I would like to do, or how am I going to do it? Kind of like it was for me out there, and I was doing stuff because I just simply liked it. The first time that I actually made money even on YouTube, it was with one of my scooter clips that went kind of, I would say for at the time, 12 years ago, viral. I think it got maybe like over 100,000 views. I'm like, okay, that's something is happening there. And the threshold of getting your AdSense payment was reached. So I'm like, oh, I got 100 euros out of it. Cool. And that kind of like went away, you know. I didn't put much thought to it. I didn't say like I could make a career out of it. It happened almost 10 years later when I started focusing on it and thinking like, okay, how can I make I can actually make money of it. Let's see what I can do with this. Where are we now in the timeline?
No, I'm so involved in this. So where we are at the time is probably 10 years ago when you posted those first YouTube videos. You built your race car, the Impreza.
Yes.
You've hit your 700 horsepower because the girlfriend dumped you, so it wasn't 500, it was actually 700.
Yes.
Are you at the ring yet?
No, not at all. So a lot of things have happened in between. For a lot of people, it might be actually boring now because we want to hear the Nürburgring story. But there's a lots of things that lead up to this. We can even take a step back to my scooter career because it's actually quite important how I got into the car world and what happened next and how I ended up here. So I'm not gonna tell you all the scooters that I owned and how much money I wasted on them. Like from like literally 90% of my income washing dishes and being in the factories went into modifying these things. So whereas the kids back in the days would spend everything on a Friday and Saturday night on beer and booze and drinks, for me it was like, I need to get a faster cylinder, I need to get a better clutch, I need to get this. I had everything calculated of how much like how many weeks I need to work, how many times in a holiday I need to work, and how much money I would earn at the end of the month and what I can afford then. And I would then just like, well, survive on my parents, like them offering me dinner at night, not having to go out and not spending money there. And 90%, like literally 90% of the income went into modifying scooter, and then like 5% went to paying like my phone bill and maybe something else and that kind of stuff. But long story short, towards the end, when I was already participating with the drag racing championship, the organization, actually the leading person who is now also running Blackfish Graphics, the wrapping shop here at the Nürburgring, they wanted to actually expand into the world of cars and to create a drag racing event in the Netherlands that would focus on exclusive cars, so like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, supercars, hypercars. And the first event took place, I believe, in 2008 or 9. I think it was 2008, yeah. It was quite a success, but for people who know Dutch culture, people are very humble. You should not show off if you have money. If you have $1 million, you should still ride your bicycle. You should not offend your neighbor. So it's quite difficult to get participants there. So majority of our people were actually from Belgium with their cars. And at the same time in Russia, Moscow Unlim 500 Plus started happening. So it was a drag race on a full mile stretch with not only very exclusive and expensive cars, Lamborghinis or Ferraris or you name it, but also modified already. So not just Lamborghinis, but twin turbo Gallardo with the pushing 2,000 horsepower. 10 years ago, that was already quite crazy numbers. And them doing drag racing. So we said, well, the organization of our event said, like, well, Misha, you're Russian, they are Russian. Go there and let's see if we can get maybe some participants for our event. So at the time I started like, okay, I'm not gonna just show up there and be like, yo, we have this event. Would you like to drive 2,000 kilometers with your fancy car and attend our party? I think I needed to gain people's trust, so I started to see where do they hang out on social media feeds. Okay, there was a certain forum. There was a BMW club for some reason was the main platform for them to post about them, about their cars, about their builds. So that's where I started post myself. Obviously, I didn't have, well, I had my car, so I would run my project car there, the project car thread. But on top of it, also posting some memes and to show that I'm also like kind of funny guy or something, to gain their appreciation and trust and like to become more or less friends in a digital space. To then later actually go to their event and say like, here I am, it's me, like.
These aren't just, like you say, a normal supercar owner. These are oligarchs, right?
Yes, if you would have to put it that way, they are that, yes.
And they're hanging out on the forums and chilling, and that's how they get the release with their cars.
Yeah, that's how they were doing, because at the end of the day, there are different kinds of people, of course. Like some guys who own everything in life, they either want to stay away from it or they don't care. And even nowadays, when you look at social media, big names in automotive world, like, okay, let's take, for example, the first name that comes to my mind is Manny Koshbin with his massive collection of hypercars, Bugattis and whatnot. He's also openly posting everything out there. And there are many other names like him who nowadays posting openly with what they have. They might not give their full insights into their business income and how they earn their money, or they may do that, but they are not afraid of the spotlight, and some people are. So there was just a certain group of people who...
I've met people that are.
Yeah. There's a group of people who don't care. And at the same time, although they are there publicly in a forum, it's still a regulated space and place. If you're an asshole or a dickhead, you're gonna get banned from there and nobody's gonna talk to you. So that's why it's like quite a sensitive way. So.
You basically befriended these oligarchs to come to your car event in the Netherlands.
Yes, that's what we agreed on. So I went to their event and we all became friends or pseudo friends, or at least we like to hanging out with each other. And they agreed to come to our event. Unfortunately, our event at the time got cancelled out because of many reasons of government regulations. They wouldn't allow us to let us.
Based on what you said about the Netherlands being
Based that, so I remember the first event, the organization spent, I think, between 5 to 10,000 euros on fencing because we had to fence off a piece of grass where a protected plant was growing. Mind you, it was a military airfield, so like thousands of liters of kerosene and fumes were pouring over these plants, but God forbid if one spectator is going to step on that plant. So I had to, so that's kind of like
how it works.
Exactly how it works. So unfortunately, no future event could take place because of all these regulations and etc. etc. But I still maintained a connection to these people in Russia and for whatever benefit it might be in the future.
So it's worth just mentioning quickly, we are actually in the car park at Apex at the Nürburgring, and there's cars being washed, there's cars going down the track, there's exhaust systems starting up. So unlike the normal, really quiet episodes of the podcast, I think you're going to get the full Nürburgring experience with things starting up around us. And we do have to have little breaks every now and then just to go out for a breather. But we were at the point where you were talking about you'd maintained your relationship with basically a group of oligarchs that you met in Russia, trying to get them over to a car event in the Netherlands that didn't actually happen in the end. What did you then do from there?
What did I do from there? Well, I just lived my life. I was building my car at that point. At that point, it was becoming near to completion, and I believe 2012. We're talking about. There was an event happening in Spa. It was called Gran Turismo events. The event is still going on. It's an organizer that does different events all around the world, from just like road trips to track events focused around exclusive cars. And these guys from Russia, they were coming over to that event. So they said, hey, we're coming over. Would you like to meet up with us? Come to Spa. We can have some fun. I'm like, sure. Yeah, why not? So dropped everything, went there, had a good time in Spa. I drove for the very first time in Spa. That was my first experience in Spa. Also, again, a track that was only 2 hours away from my home. Never went there because I had no interest of going there. All of a sudden, some friends invited me over, like, okay, we might as well do that. Met with some people there as well. Made some very interesting connections that we maybe should keep off camera. Because those kinds of people want to stay off the radar, especially maybe in today's environment. And went home, had a great time. Then one of these people called me over 3 days later, and he said, like, yo, we're at your place. I'm like, what do you mean you're at my place? Like, yeah, we're in Amsterdam. I'm like, but I don't live in Amsterdam. Yeah, we're in Holland. I'm like, yeah, well, Holland is not just Amsterdam. It's like, doesn't matter. Can you come over here and we can have some fun? Like, okay, sure, no problem. So one day I showed them around town, like where you can get asked, well, what do you get in Amsterdam? Of course, mushrooms and cookies, right? So they had good fun. They went away. 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from the same guy, and he's like, "Yo, my business partner is coming over also for a honeymoon trip with his friends. Could you show him around there?" I'm like, okay, sure. So went over, did the same thing all over again. The guy went back. I get a phone call from him, like, "Yeah, thank you very much. You're one of us now because like everyone is speaking so highly of you." I'm like, "Well, I'm just being a nice guy and just like being a tour guide, you can say, or something, you know."
So you were treated like an oligarch without the bank balance?
Yes. Well, basically, let me give you practical examples of that, because the next point, that's when it became like really crazy. So roughly 2 weeks after this like whole Amsterdam shenanigans and my first track day in Spa-Francorchamps, I get a phone call from the same guy, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm studying for my exam about rhetorics or law, what it was at the time." Like, "Yeah, whatever. Come over to Vienna. We can have some have some fun here." I'm like, "Well, no, I'm studying for my exam." Like, dude, come on. I've been studying. We've all been studying. You can skip out on class. Like, so I'll see you tomorrow. I'm like, I'm not driving to Vienna. Nobody says anything about driving. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm like, Okay, whatever. So hung up, continued like with my study. Also, I checked my email, flight ticket to Vienna on my name, because he had still my passport copy or like my name from when I was in Amsterdam, but with him at the time. Like, shit. Well, let's see where this takes us. So at night, I write email to all my professors in university and my work saying like, I have a family emergency in Russia. I need to leave tomorrow the first time. Sorry, guys, it's I have to go. And I get reply from everyone, from like the professors, from my work. Take as much time as you need. Fuck, that's not what I want to hear at this point. Okay, well, so I hop on a plane to Vienna. I arrive at the location, and it's like a very fancy hotel. They had like this massive security, because I just like, student guy with my trainers and a suitcase, and like, who the hell are you? I'm like, well, I'm here for Mr. Let's not call his name. Like, what? So they call like security, and they're like, here is some Misha for you, Mr. Sharodin. Like, oh yeah, please send him upstairs. We've been waiting for him. Like, all right. So they guide me like through this whole like golden hallway and like to this private super VIP room. And the guy opens up like, right, you're here. So finally, we can go to Budapest now. I'm like, but I just got here. Like, yes, but we've been waiting here for you since yesterday. So let's go. So we hopped in an M6 convertible, me, him, and his girlfriend at the time. We're flying to Budapest from Vienna with very illegal speeds. He may or may not have been completely sober at the time, not only talking about alcohol. Not the most responsible thing to do, but let's say, to summarize the whole situation, it was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas meets Wolf of Wall Street. So that's how the whole things were happening. We arrived at Budapest. We spent the night in the Hilton in the Buda Castle, like the old part of the town. The following day, we go to walk and enjoy a bit of town, a bit of coffee, and he said, "Oh, some friends of mine are in town. Maybe you could, maybe we can meet up with them. We'll see. No big pressure." So we stopped at the cafeteria opposite of the Budapest Opera, so like very fancy, very classy, and then his friend said like, oh, there they are. So like it's a couple, like an older couple and a young girl, basically their daughter. So the older couple was dressed in a very like typical 90s Russian people with zero taste and zero money, I would say, like simple washed out jeans and like a lumberjack t-shirt tucked into their like absolutely zero taste. But the girl was having like this bright green, like emerald green dress with like the fashion dress that I never seen in real life, let alone maybe even on TV. I'm not into fashion, but like something does not add up here, you know? So we're sitting there, and then at one point we're like, oh, we need to go buy cigarettes, because a friend of mine was smoking. I was also smoking at the time, I quit, by the way. And like, we need to get cigarettes, but we have only cards, we have no cash. So we asked the friend like, oh yeah, can we get some money? So he gives us a €100 bill. So we go around the corner, buy cigarettes for like €3.50 or something, whatever it was costing at the time. I come back, I hand him the change, like, excuse me, sir, here. And he looks at me over his shoulder, is like, what am I supposed to do with this? Are you offending me? But then in Russian, like, okay. So I just sit down, like, okay, pretend like nothing happened, sorry. So then a guy from the opera comes over, and they start playing live music on a violin. And they play music, and then shortly before that, actually, we went to the bathroom with a friend of mine, and he said, by the way, this is a vice president of Russia's biggest construction company. So I'm like, so like proper loaded people. That explains the older couple being, we don't give a fuck how we look because we have all the money in the world. And the spoiled kid being like, I need the most fanciest, I don't know, not even Versace dress, but like even something more higher, you know? So like, this is like the type of people and fluctuations you have there. So the live music comes on, and I'm typing to my roommate at the time, because he was Slovakian, also very highly educated into culture. and all the classical stuff. Like, dude, you're never gonna believe what's happening. So I'm like, so like a lot of weekend millionaires, like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire question. I need to order a song, like a live song. What should I do? It's like, Baldric Smetana di Moldau, because it's a type of song, or like it's not a song, it's a melody or a classic tune, that people know, but it's not like typical Mozart. They know that they heard it before, it's freaking beautiful, they're in love with it, and it's like something like very niche, you could even say. So I order that, and the guy starts playing that, and he's like, oligarchs at the table, like, Misha.
You thought, I've done a move there.
I've done a move. That's a power move. And they're like, great taste in music. That's a very classic. And then these 97 euros that I had still from the cigarettes, like I gifted.
But what was your plan with all this? Why were you just living life? Because I get the sense with you. And obviously we went out last night and talking, and there's that Instagram clip that flies around, which is, I'm just living life, man.
Yeah.
And if I had to summarize currently the conversations I've had with you, you just seem to just live. And there's not much of a plan. It gets on to the next thing.
That's actually, I think you're right. So at the time, and even today, with a lot of things that I'm doing today, I'm just living life. Like up until, I would say, 1 or 2 years ago, I was not calculating my next move. I was not worrying what is going to happen tomorrow, because that's going to be tomorrow's Misha problem, Today's Misha has a different problem. So back at the time, it was, of course, being a naive kid, thinking like, maybe one day I can be like them, having the type of money they have. Maybe I end up having, becoming also their business partner or something. Like these wild thoughts.
That didn't happen.
That definitely did not happen. There were plenty of examples that I know from my friends, like a neighbor from the apartment building when I was growing up as a kid in the 90s. He was fueling up cars at the gas station, making like, I don't know, 200 euros a month. And then a Mercedes pulls up and he starts talking to the owner, and the owner said, you're a cool guy, you know what, you can run a couple of businesses for me, because he seemed like a hardworking. And then he ended up being a millionaire himself. So these stories exist, and I'm like, oh, maybe in the back of my head, maybe something like that might happen to me as well. So me having all this fancy lifestyle, we had it like, okay, we did Budapest, we went to Barcelona, we went to Monaco. There are lots of like, the guys were spending like tens of thousands of euros a day on me alone, like, on the hotel stays and all the parties. We were in Jimmy's in Monaco. There were all kinds of crazy stuff that we experienced. Formula One in Barcelona. So that's when people can actually pinpoint what year it happened, because that's... Michael Schumacher crashed in front of me in turn 1 in Barcelona. So it was either 2012 or 2013. I think it was 2012. Any case, I said like, they said, when they were saying things such as like, you're one of us now, and they were already spending much money, I said, I don't want things for granted. Maybe we can work something together on. And I got the opportunity to go and move to Moscow for half a year as an exchange student from my university in Netherlands that I was studying at the time. So I said, I have this opportunity to come to Moscow actually, so I will continue with my studies, but maybe I can start like working with you guys, for you guys, whatever you guys have for me, because maybe we can do something together. Who knows where it's gonna end up. Yeah, sure, of course, come over, we can set you up, we can like do cool stuff, we have plenty of things. I'm like, okay, cool. So long story short, I leave everything in Netherlands behind. I hop on a plane, I go to universities, I signed up for this, and then I meet up with them again, like, yo, so guys, so I'm here now, so so can we do something? Yeah, sure, like just being completely ignored, basically. And like, and I'm there in an awkward position, but at the same time, I don't want to be like, yeah, but you promised, like, but also at the same time, yes, but also no. It's like
just done a big thing moving over there
big
for
move
this.
With the promises of like, hey, we're gonna do like more things together. It's not that I'm asking like, hey, can you give me 10 grand or like 5,000 euros for nothing because I'm a cool guy. No, I want to actually work with you. Can you put me on a job spot that you actually basically promised? And it was just like, no. So, and that's a paradox thing, because they enjoyed my company, just like hanging out, and me, I don't know, being a translator for them, or like just showing them the nice parts there, or being a cool guy. But actually, when I was promised a certain thing to actually help them make money, maybe in a way, it was like, no, we don't want to deal with that. So
do you think that then maybe you developed from that happening a bit more of a I'm not going to trust people as much and a bit more of a fuck you attitude?
yes, yes, definitely, because I remember like at a certain point I was living simply off my student what's it called,
Credit.
student credit. Yeah, I would get like €1,000 a month from the Dutch government, because they would give you like, I think €100, €150 or 350 if you're living outside, and you could borrow extra money.
So you had a little bit just to live and eat and all the rest of it.
Exactly. I was sitting in my grandma's apartment and then browsing Facebook feed, and I saw them. They would be like spending their holidays in Maldives, you know, bragging about how great of a time they would be having. These friends of mine who then all of a sudden dropped me. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you guys. One day I'll be sitting there. And actually, last holiday I was in Dominican Republic and in Cuba, and like in white sand beaches together with my fiance. I'm like, you know what? Here we are. It took me maybe like 6 years. At the time. Yeah, now like about
Because
8 or 9 years.
that moment you're talking about, Soundbase, but you're still not at the ring.
We're
So
still
Misha,
not at the ring.
How did you get to the Nürburgring? We're at 43 minutes. How did you get to the Nürburgring?
Right.
If he goes, this is a cool story.
It's not. It's actually not a cool story at all. So I had a couple of jobs here and there in between, like from studying. I actually dropped out of college. I was in my last year of studying.
And that was marketing.
It was business and management, or to be more precise, the study was called Liberal Arts and Sciences with a major in business and management. So in the first year, we had everything. We had neuroscience, we had law, we had rhetorics, we had like political science. So lots of cool stuff. And then the second year, you would have your major in business and management, and minor I picked in law. And then there was also marketing involved, etc., in economics.
You dropped that.
I dropped that out in the last year because then I started realizing that I want to do stuff with automotive something, and
Had that
probably
passion for cars.
Yes, automotive marketing. And back at the time when I was already like skipping class, either in advance announcing it to my professor, saying like, hey, I'm not going to be there that day, but I'm going to submit my assignment to you. Like, where are you going? Well, I'm going to a race, or I'm going to, I don't know, to a car event or to a car show. Like, Misha, you're not gonna be like in the future making money with doing car stuff. Like, well, here we are.
You definitely proved them wrong. So then, how did you get to the Nürburgring?
Good point. Yeah, basically, indeed, I dropped out. I was doing some other jobs. I left those jobs, and then at a certain point in time, I got a job offer. Like, a friend of mine messaged, because he was into cars, he was racing, he was coming here to the Nürburgring, and he had some friends here who started the company at the Nürburgring. He said, hey, they started the company, brand new company, and they're looking for someone to run their marketing, mostly social media, because nowadays, and we're talking about end of 2014, that's when social media was already booming. It was important. We're talking
that was the upwards trend. Everybody was hopping on it. And people like the Gymsharks out there and all the rest of it just gained like millions of followers in a year.
Now social media is not what it was like 2009 when I started doing my car stuff. We're like, it's good to have a Facebook page. Now it's like really...
That car stuff, you're obviously doing social media for different brands and people that we're talking about. But there is a certain name which some viewers might recognise that I'm going to bring up here, that was Boosted Boris.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
Now, Boosted Boris was...
We're still not at the ring. Now we're going back in time again.
Oh, God, no. Let's get to the ring. How did you get to the ring?
Boosted Boris is a very important thing, of course, related to YouTube. But maybe we should start covering the story of how I got to the Nürburgring. Massive train of thoughts here. So, this friend of mine said there's a company at the Nürburgring. They started a new business. They're renting out cars. They're completely brand new. They have the investment. They have the money. They have a great location. They have great cars. but they have nobody to run the place or to run their marketing. And I would like to recommend you to them because you have by now already proven with various projects, starting from your own car to Nissan Juke R that I was like at the time promoting, and also another like racing name that I was managing. So I already gained sort of a name for myself of what I can do on social media. So like, okay, sure. Had a talk with them and they said, yeah, okay, we would love to have you on board. You can run our social media pages. So that would happen in 2014 at the end. And then at the beginning of 2015, when the season started, I went to them and said, like, guys, I can do it remotely, but I think it makes more sense if I'm actually at location and can post everything what's happening live instead of being here every, like, I don't know, 2 weeks and actually here every single day. They agreed to that, so I moved here to the Nürburgring.
And that is how you got to the Nürburgring.
Yes, because I simply got a job offer. Again, even at that time and before that, I've been here 2 or 3 times for some other projects, briefly, that I came here. I drove the track as well. It didn't do much to me. I had a fast passenger lap in the rain. Like, okay, it was interesting, but didn't do much to me at the time and had no interest of making anything because everything looked for me like, I don't know, still like old and like really not appealing.
And yet, if you were to rebuild the Nürburgring today, it would cost 40 million quid. It's one of the most insane tracks in the world. And it took 25,000 people to construct it, yet you weren't fazed by it.
No, because it's even nowadays, it's still an old track in the middle of the woods. And that's also the beauty of it. But at the time, the Misha at the time, who was like in these fancy nightclubs and Metropolis and flashy nightlife, you know, you come here and it's like, oh, okay, well, that looks kind of boring, you know? That was the perception maybe that I had of the place at the time. Or also because I was racing in the Netherlands with my race car and I had everything there located. I don't need to go somewhere else to have fun because I have everything at home. That was my perception, mostly.
But you did come here and that perception was then changed?
Yes. It started to evolve because not only was I building up the brand and the business that I was invited to work for.
To clarify to people, wasn't Apex.
It was not Apex. It was another company. It was called Ring Garage at the time. Many people will probably remember and know it. It was in 2015. Now, like you mentioned previously, due to me being a naive kid previously and having being, like, I don't know, taking wrong steps and being like, okay, I'm gonna stop trusting people. Like, even though I'm venturing into this project and it's brand new and I can attach my name to it, I need something that is really my own. I need to have something that, if even this thing goes south, I need to have something that will be still my own and no one can take away from me. So I decided to actually do something with YouTube. Now, 2 years prior to that, when I was working on another project, I was at a car show in Sweden, and that's how we get to the name of Boosted Boris. Now I actually rolled into YouTube. I think that's now we can say that. It was a car show in Sweden, Bill Sport. It's one of the biggest, I think the biggest, well, it's the biggest show in Sweden, one of the biggest in the world. We were invited with our Nissan Juke R to participate there, and the brand Downforce Clothing, they had a YouTube channel and they had this very charismatic character called Captain Redbeard who was running the show. So a big guy with a big red beard who would go and harass car owners with some like really typical Swedish humor, etc. On that particular weekend, when the show was taking place, it was his birthday. And he said, guys, I love you, but I'm not gonna drive 800 kilometers to a car show to make a YouTube video that's gonna get watched by 20, if we're lucky, 30 people, not 1,000, but that's the views that they were getting on their shows, and waste my birthday on. So, fun. So I arrived there, we're having like dinner, and the guy's saying, Misha, you're going to be our host for a YouTube channel. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, why not? But we need to be at least as awesome as Captain Redbeard. So I had this image in my head of me wearing this Russian Ushanka hat and sunglasses, because that's something that I worn once when I went to like a very cold trip with lots of sun in the middle of the winter, and that image stuck to me like, okay, that looks kind of cool, and we can put a sticker on the hat with your logo, but what's the name? like VTech Vladimir. No, and then like we came up with Boosted Boris. You know?
You could have had a YouTube character called VTech Vladimir.
Yes.
But Boosted Boris was what you went with. Okay, that's how Boosted Boris came into production, and that's how you got into YouTube.
Indeed. So basically, yeah, we made 3 episodes there in Sweden, and instead of 20 or 30 views, it got between 2 and 3 and 4,000 views. So I'm like, okay, and the comments were all positive. They loved my stupid humor, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I was trying, and people were supportive of it, like the majority usually happens when you start something new. People are supportive of it until you start getting big, because that's when all the haters come out. So people loved it. I'm like, okay, maybe I can make it into a thing. And when I came to the Nürburgring, I decided to actually, okay, let me start actually doing this Boosted Boris character.
Myself, on my own channel.
On Boosted Boris channel. And in 2015, I made probably between 10 and 20 videos or so. I remember the first video that went viral for me, with big quotation marks viral. It was, I did a lap in a transit van, and that of course everyone associates it with Sabine Schmitz, because the Top Gear, etc. With Nathan, he was the driver, and we did some crazy stuff, and that was shared by Car Throttle, so the biggest page back at the time, and still nowadays one of the biggest internet resources, or like pages. And because of the share, it got, I think it was 50,000 views, or no, I think it was 13,000 views, and I could get 50 euros from that on AdSense. I'm like, oh my God, my first big money, my first big hit. It's so amazing. Nowadays, if it gets 12,000 views, I'm gonna quit YouTube probably, you know? if it doesn't get 12,000 views within the first 2 hours.
Just for reference, we're sat at the hotel last night having food, and I said to me, I was like, it's mad, isn't it? When I put up a podcast, you think about 1,000 people sitting there watching that episode at one time while we're sat here eating. We went 1,000 people in the Stoners and 100,000 people. So it's obviously, you had about 60,000 subs. Did you say you reached peak with Boosted Boris?
At the peak of Boosted Boris, it was 60,000 subs probably, or 70, something around that. I haven't visited the page in a long time.
So Boosted Boris has happened. 60,000 subscribers.
Something like that.
Something like that on Boosted Boris. And then the next stage of basically your journey at the ring continues. And that was by Apex happened, and Correct. Your YouTube channel continued to grow.
Correct. So, as mentioned, I started working at the other company in 2015. I finished the first season. I went back to Russia because I was back at the time dating a Russian girl. So staying there over winter, sitting on my laptop, watching YouTube, and I ran into Casey Neistat, started watching his videos, and I realized, well, that's actually quite cool how he makes of simple things something interesting. Then I thought, that's maybe something I should do, because there were so many things happening at the ring every single day that I would love to document, but the way Boosted Boris was, it was more like a character sketch. A lot of things I really could not do. It needed some planning. It was a lot of editing. I could simply not make every single day video with the resources I had back at the time. But I could simply vlog as myself. So that's what I decided to do for the oncoming year, for 2016. To film everything, what was happening up close, and show the realness of it. Now, at the time, there were a couple of questionable business decisions made with the company I was working for. Namely, it got into partnership with another guy who I realized soon enough that he was like a real pathological liar, because of all the things I already experienced in the past with my naivety. My bullshit meter was very well trained at the time. So long story short, he was a simple mechanic at another firm, claimed to have McLaren F1, who claimed to have other cars. And I'm like, right, a 30 million plus euro car, and you're a mechanic at the Nürburgring, and things like that. And what he was doing is like gaining trust of other people, collecting money from other drivers to then rent a car, for example, at our or other stores, not paying them, then the car would get crashed, it would disappear. And then the companies would be without any money and no name to grasp, because the identity he was working on was like kind of falsified and he was functioning under business name of someone else. It was a massive, but the thing is, I was telling the business owner, like, do not go into business with him. And I was looked down upon, like, you're just a kid who's just running our social media. And that's the guy who's gonna bring us hundreds of thousands of euros because he's bringing his VIP customers over from a different continent. And we're gonna run the 24-hour race. And eventually what happened, both cars got crashed and there was no money. And it was a big story. Yeah, so I was shooting that, but as I knew, like, okay, I cannot put this on YouTube. I cannot put this on YouTube. Things gonna go wrong, and then, well, let's wait how it plays out. So I filmed everything throughout the whole year, but I didn't post anything on YouTube yet because I'm like, I need to see how it's gonna end. Well, it didn't end well. Fast forward to the end of the year, by October, November, I stopped getting paid from that company. And I'm like, why are you not paying my invoices? Well, because I believe you haven't done enough for us. Like, sorry, what? I'm not going to go into detail whether I have or have not done enough, but people who have been following me since the time, I believe people can say that I did put the company on the map. Anyway, everything that I built for the last 2 years, put my soul and body into that company and my heart, and it was again taken away from me, so to say. And there I was with nothing, and had Boosted Boris that people loved, my own YouTube channel, like me myself, that I intended to film throughout the 2016 but haven't done yet. Well, I filmed, I haven't published anything.
Didn't publish anything.
Like, okay, what am I going to do next? At that point, I was already kind of, I wouldn't say like really publicly connected to the Nürburgring, but I already fell in love with the place, and I knew that I wanted to be there and just continue the life that I had. It was not a fancy life. I was not driving fancy supercars. I was occasionally driving a race car from A to B, but not on the track itself. I was getting passenger laps, but I was still living from paycheck to paycheck at the time, and I loved it. I was simply loved the atmosphere. That's why many people move here and they fall in love with the place, because it's just like a sort of Jamaica for like car people.
It's everywhere. The hotels, the restaurant, everything lives and breathes.
Exactly.
The noises around the place.
Exactly. It's a place you will fall in love with, and it just like pulls you in and you get sucked into. So I loved it, and I knew, even though I lost that contact, I knew I wanted to be back here again. So I was making lots of things, like I had some race teams on my mind that I wanted to approach to, like, hey, maybe I can run marketing for you. I really wanted to get back into here. And I also got in touch with a fella named Robert Mitchell, who is the owner of Apex nowadays and a co-founder together with me. And the reason why I got in touch with him is because he came to Ring Garage. He DM'd the Instagram profile and asked, like, do you offer car storage? And he came over, he started to speak German to me, and my German at the time was horrible. I'm like, can we speak English? Like, yeah, I'm American, I can speak English, definitely. Like, okay, that's gonna be so much easier for me. We started talking. I also made like Boosted Boris videos with his cars. He was like really cool about it. And then I started also talking to him over winter, like, hey, what are you doing? What's your main business? What are you doing at the ring? How come you're there? Would you like to maybe invest there or do something there? It's like, I'm actually like, I'm thinking of doing certain things. I actually bought a property, which is Apex nowadays. Where we are now. But at this point, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it, because I have actually already some other business proposals from someone else. And without going too much into detail, for the fairness towards him, that deal didn't work out. And then he said, like, right, that didn't work out, and you're my number one person, obviously.
In a way that's like, let's fucking show him.
Yes, in a way that happened. So I had me being, like, he said, do you want to upset some people? That was one of the, like, conversation points. Like, do you want to upset some people? Like, yes, because success is the best revenge. So fast forward to where we are right now. I think we are I'd like to say, one of the iconic places, like one of the bigger names at the Nürburgring. And the other place that got rid of me is bankrupt. And yeah, so.
And just to explain to people, summarized Apex, where we are now.
Yes.
What is Apex? What does Apex do?
Yes. So the funny thing, there we go, another story. No, don't worry. I'll keep it simple. No, I think it's a very important key point. So when I was in talks with Robert back in the winter of 2016, beginning of 2017, and he had these like entrepreneurial questions to me, like, what do you see Apex in 5 or 10 years? And I said, listen, I cannot pinpoint what we're going to be, how many cars we're going to have, but I want it to be an iconic name within the Nürburgring community, so people know us, and we will see like, okay, well, that's nice to have actually like a great general goal. And what we started doing is car rentals for the Nürburgring, for the track. Our main building is a hotel building where we have 5 rooms where people can stay. We're offering also instructions for people who come to drive our cars or even their own personal cars. We also have been running, for the last 6 years, we've been running ring taxi. So because it's not just something according to the Nürburgring policy that you can just come and offer. You cannot just say like, oh, hop in with my car, I can give you a lap. Well, you and I are going for a lap later together, but this is just like...
If you want to see that, I'm sure there'll be a link posted to wherever that video is. Are you scaring the life out of your podcast host? And I've never been on the ring before either. But this is perfect, because this leads me on to like a section about... I think people want to know how... It baffles me when I hear things. How does the Nürburgring work? So you just mentioned there, as a company on the Nürburgring, you actually had to bid for one of 4 places to be able to take people around the ring.
Yes,
on ring
exactly.
taxi.
So the rental business is not regulated. You can do whatever, and nobody cares about it, as long as you obviously run street legal cars within the rules of being damn street legal to run them during the tourist days. If you're running on a track day, nobody cares if it's a race car or whatsoever. As for the paid taxi laps, for whatever reason, Nürburgring 10, 15, 20 years ago decided, you know what, we need to regulate that business so people do not make money of it for some reason. Anyway, so the way it works nowadays, and for the last like 10 plus years, is you have a blind auction. So basically you go to the Nürburgring and say like, I would like to participate with the bidding. And then you need to say, I'm willing to pay this amount and per year for the next 3 years, because the license is given to a company for 3 years. It's not just for 1 year. And then the top 4 highest bidders, it's a blind auction, so you cannot outbid someone. You just say like, I'm gonna give this. And for example, the first 3 years that we did, one company, it's a very big car manufacturer, got outbid by €1. So, for example, they said, we're going to say, I don't know, €50,000 per year or something. And someone said, I'm going to do 50,001 just for shits and giggles.
That is how I've won all of my automotive memorabilia at silent auctions, by the way. I do a little number over the top, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the top 4 companies with the highest bidders, they get to run the ring taxi or those co-pilot rides. They're allowed to use 2 cars, 2 permanent cars with 1 backup car. And these 3 cars, they're allowed to change once per year if they have the necessity to. And that becomes a very tricky strategic business, because not only you're limited to 2 cars only, you cannot just say like, I'm going to have 20 different cars and people can pick every single day. If you do it during a track day, that's not during the public sessions. There is no regulation for track days except for what track day organizer tells you to do or not to do. So you can then have 20 different cars if you want to. But for tourist drives, these are the regulations. So most of the companies then decide to have 1 very fast car and 1 4-seater car where 3 people...
C63 or...
yeah, M5, M3, etc., etc. And then we can make a complete full podcast about running the taxi program alone, because it's such a difficult business. From the outside, it looks all lush and dandy, but first of all, you have all the running costs of the cars. You have the license costs that are like quite high per year alone. You have the purchase price of the cars. You have the insurance of those cars, because it's not a regular insurance. You need to go to the insurer and say like, I'm going to run it as a Nürburgring taxi And the insurance needs to confirm that they insure you as a Nürburgring taxi. And that letter you need to present to the Nürburgring, so Nürburgring can see that your car is actually registered and insured as a Nürburgring taxi with a big coverage for the passengers. So you cannot just be like, oh yeah, this is just a random car. You're paying a big sum of money for the insurance there alone. Then you need to have personnel, like people strapping passengers in the race car. Like you need like 3 people alone if you're running a 4-seater with buckle seats, etc. That's what we're having. You need to have salespeople on site. You need the people processing the bookings. So you have, for example, on the evening session, you might have 3 bookings. On a weekend session, you might have 20 laps per car or something. Then the track closes for an accident. Then those bookings get moved forward. And at the end, people don't get to do their laps. You need to refund them or reschedule for next day. It's such a massive operation. And we did calculation for if everything goes well, no crashes, no major technical failures, engines blowing up, or COVID, or floods that we had here. If everything goes well, in our case, the way we were running taxi operation, for €1 million investment, we would be lucky with a €50,000 revenue, or like profit. And at that point, with such a small margin ROI, people will be like, why the hell are you doing this? For us, it was basically just a marketing operation.
They put you on the map. Everyone's heard of Ring Taxi.
Ring Taxi or Apex Taxi, because Ring Taxi is a company of its own that operates under that name. It definitely paid off. We put our name on the map. It was amazing. We had great time, because the way we were running it, we wanted to have the most exciting cars. So we had, for example, at our latest stage, we had a GT2 RS MR, which was the record holder and still record holder of the fastest production spec car on the Nürburgring, together with a built BMW M3. With 4 bucket seats inside the car, full roll cage, everything like full-blown race car. And then we come again to another very difficult point of the business decisions when you want to do something cool or you should be doing something smart. Because here we are investing lots of money into these cool cars, and then people come to us and like, we'd like to have a ride. No, I don't want GT2. I want to go on a GT3. Why? Well, because GT3 is a higher number than a GT2, so it must be faster. Or GT3 is more expensive car in my country because it's naturally aspirated, so it has more emissions. And in my country, prices are regulated on emission base, so GT3 RS is more expensive than GT2 RS, so more expensive is more better. Or M5 is faster than M3. So that's the majority of people that actually come here and have no idea about cars. Of course, the people that we hang out with are car maniacs. They know every single engine code of a certain model type, and they would come from another part of the world to sit in this particular car because it's the fastest, it's the best, and they know the story behind it. But the average, actually, the mass volume clientele, they have no clue. And and then we need to ask ourselves the questions: do we need to invest these millions for these most expensive cars and the running costs and the personnel costs and everything to cater to make sure that we would, at the end of the day, get €50,000 after €1 million investment to cater to the point? So we had a marketing run. It did very well for us. But to then deal with all these headaches and dramas, we said, okay, now we had a good 6 years. We're kind of done with it.
So no more of that.
Yeah, exactly.
But you mentioned about the licenses, and you actually have to have a license as well, because alongside this, you're doing your YouTube channel.
Yes.
You have to have a media license as
Correct.
well.
Correct. So that's the point where we should probably elaborate, of course, a bit about my YouTube and how it came to where it is now. Because yes, I did start posting the daily vlogs and documenting the whole process of Apex and the buying cars and driving cars, etc., etc. But the Nürburgring has a very strict media license when it comes to what you're allowed to show and what you're not allowed to show. First of all, if you want to show anything on the Nürburgring property, you need to have a media license. So what you then contact Nürburgring media department, say, I would like to film this and that on this particular day, and then you would submit the video for approval, and then it gets approval or not. 10 years ago, cameras or anything filming onboard track related was strictly prohibited. Even nowadays, when you go onto the track, you will see like a big sign saying no pictures, no cameras allowed. They became, throughout the years where we are now today, the unofficial statement is if you're doing commercial activity, such as big YouTube channel or you're earning money with it, etc., you need to have a media license. If you're doing private use, you're just gonna video for memories, you can do it, whatever, that's fine. And back at the times when I was trying to do certain things, I was trying to approach the Nürburgring, talk with them, talk to these people, say like, hey, I would like to do this and that. And they would simply say, no, you cannot do this. And then why? Well, because these are the rules. And that's how we are here in Germany. Rules are the rules. That's how we are. Like, but what about these other channels that posting crashes every single day? Well, we don't know who they are. And we don't have time to police around and like contact them and see what they're doing. Like, yeah, but you can do with me because you know where I am, right? That was the bottom line, yes. So step by step, step by baby step, I was still trying and pushing, and then I was allowed to do one video that needed to get approved. Then I was allowed to do 2 videos, like onboard videos or something that was approved. Then I could do the whole year of tourist drives and still videos needed to be approved. And then they would see like, okay, I'm not putting any crashes in, I'm slowing down for speed limit in Breitscheid, I'm not doing any lap timing. And sometimes I would do certain things that I would not see the harm of it, but they would say like, Misha, this is not okay. Okay, please remove that, and then the video would get approved. So it was a very long and, of course, obviously painful process to get where I am right now. And where I am right now, in the last 3 years, I have a yearly media license to film during the public sessions, also during track days, where I can do what I want or what I want without asking prior approval, and as long as it's within the Nürburgring guidelines. And still, even nowadays, because it has become such a mass media production machine, if you would call so, because I'm putting a video every single day. Right now, I have 106 videos in backlog. And today, I might put up a video that I filmed 4 months ago because I might think, okay, this is a good time to put out that particular video. But I obviously have forgotten what happened on that particular day. And then there might be a car that parked alongside that actually crashed. I'm not allowed to put crashes in. And then Nürburgring was still like, Misha, what the hell? Why are you putting crash videos? Like, I'm not emphasizing on that crash. It was literally just like,
driving past it.
I messed up. I'm sorry. I'm gonna take it down, or so. That's
cut it out in the edit.
Cut it out in the edit post or something, or take something down. So things are still being monitored. It's not that I'm like, I can do whatever I want.
So you could lose that at any moment.
Of course, and of course it can happen that I don't know. Next year we're gonna have a different CEO who, for whatever reason, dislikes me, or someone else, and they might revoke that media license.
And the risk is because you pass a lot of crashes, and this brings me on to a massive question for me. I've got my own cars. I'm sure I will be bringing one of them to the Nürburgring. I don't have too many aspirations to drive the van round, I must say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's always the fear. It's like, I have this asset.
Yeah.
I go onto this track. I'm totally uninsured. I can't have any responsibility really for the people around me. That is their own prerogative. What happens in the simplest terms possible when someone bins it bad on the Nürburgring?
Are we talking about someone, or are we talking about me?
Let's start with someone. I come here, I bring my Lamborghini, I go into a corner way too quickly, cross the track, hit the railings, dent all the railings, car spins across the road, someone else hits me, Nürburgring closed for a few hours.
Okay, good. In that particular case, first of all, this is a public road. So you said you hit the railing, this means you will have to pay for the railing. Now, a lot of people, their first reaction is like, oh my God, Nürburgring is making so much money of people crashing into barriers. These barriers are there just to make money. No, these barriers are there to protect you so you will not fall 20 meters down the road and hit a tree and catch fire and die. So this is why they are there. Now, if you're going to go with your Lamborghini and lose control and hit a bus stop on a public road, the government will charge you for that bus stop. They will probably charge your insurance, and your insurance will pay, but the damage you cause on public roads also needs to be paid. So it's exactly the same thing that happens here. Also, any other racetrack in the world, the damages you do to the racetrack, you need to pay. Now, since it is a public road, during the public session, classified as a public road, you either, most of the times, the bill will be forwarded to your car insurance. Now, you, as a British citizen of Great Britain, insured by the British motor law, every single insurer of the of Britain excluded the Nürburgring. Now, they either say you are not covered on Nürburgring Nordschleife, or they might have some fancy wording such as you're not covered on one-way motor tollways in Germany. Well, there's only one-way motor tollway in Germany, which is the Nürburgring. So they will not pay. However, by the European law, well, nowadays Brexit, I don't know how that's going to work. By the European law, insurer needs to pay for the damages because they have to. So they will pay for the barrier damage. And they will pay for if your car spilled coolant or oil and made another car crash, they will pay for that. But they will come after you because you breached their terms and conditions. So they will sue you, and you will have to pay all of that money yourself.
What do you think that could cost?
It depends on the reason why.
In my example.
So the reason why all the British insurers excluded, because there was one particular case where a BMW M5 was driving and lost its oil pan, leaked oil all over the track, and there was like, I think, some 911s, even the Carrera GT, maybe 430 driving behind, hit the oil slick, crashed. There was a multi-million euro court case and all over the front pages in UK, and that's when all the insurance said, we're done with this track and we're done with this. So it's going to cost you as much as the damages are to the track. The barrier damages are varying between nothing up to, I think the biggest bill I have seen was probably around 6,000 euros when the car went involved between the multiple barriers. The average barrier bill is between 15 and 2,500 euros, I would say, 1,500 and 2,500 euros. And then, like I said, if another car is involved, that needs to be covered if it is your fault. So again, since it's a public road, the police will be involved. So police will come, make investigation, who is at fault, and then make their report and then submit it to your insurer, who then will analyze the data or the report provided, and they can make the case. Now, British people and most of the countries, pretty much every country, is excluded from the Nürburgring. German cars are still covered, most of them. Many of insurers start to exclude the Nürburgring because it's getting a bit crazy for them, for their feeling. But the majority of them, they still cover the Nürburgring during the public sessions. They cover those cars. So for Germans, it's less of a drama. So that's why they're like, okay, if something happens, I don't care. So that's the as elaborated answer as I can get when it comes to.
But have you seen people that are paying back bills for, say, for a very, very, very long